Welcome, students of AoE 4, to my humble house of learning. Today I will showcase a fast Song Feudal Age all-in that you can use against early feudal aggression, or if you want to be aggressive in feudal yourself. Now, we start the same way as in my fast castle build order, which is kind of the point, so that you can transition from one into the other depending on the situation. You select all your idle villagers, your 5 villagers at the start with Jushi's Legacy. You build the mill, you then select all the sheep, move them to the mill, then you move your scout onto the map, then you reselect all the villagers, shift queue them onto one of the sheep, then you select all your sheep and push them closer to the mill, and then you select, well, and before that you have moved your Imperial Official obviously, E onto the mill. And then you select one or two villagers, slaughter the one of the other sheep that you haven't rallied to, and then your first villager out of the TC is rallied onto the remaining sheep, and from that point you're rallying onto the gold. Now, we also don't build a village in this build order, because again, villages take 7.5 seconds longer, and overall you're actually losing resources by doing this, and your timings are worse, so you lose at least 10 resources in comparison to building houses at the beginning, and you are 10-15 seconds later on your age up, and also on your Song Dynasty. So the first villager on gold, second villager out of the TC builds a house, then builds a mining camp. Second villager will join the first villager for 2 on gold, and they will hit the gold mine at the exact same time. And from that point we're rallying onto the berries so as to not run out of sheep, and that allows our scout to have a more aggressive pattern, either very aggressive like this, where you could run into trouble if your opponent's scout is trying to cover this area as well. But you could also get lucky and deny them a lot of sheep. Or you just move a little bit more conservatively into this area. The important thing is that you want to be back by 240. In the perfect world you're back at 235, but 245 is also still enough. So you're rallying onto food. Right now you have 8 on food. This one will be the 9th. At 205, your Imperial Official collects tax. Those 3 villagers drop off their food, and then you build the meditation gardens at the spot that you've selected. In this case, it's where gold, food, and a little bit of wood is. Those 3 villagers building the landmark will then rally onto, or will then be shift queued onto the nearest straggler tree. All of this is the same as if you were going fast castle up until now. You're also rallying onto food. The scout comes in, drops off the sheep, and then rushes to your opponent's base. Sheep get pushed closer. Everybody rallies onto those sheep. Even those 2 up here will now move onto the sheep. You can choose to slaughter less sheep if you're scared that your opponent will get maybe a knight charge onto those villagers or something, and you can then move all the sheep back to your town center and obviously play it more defensively. So you age up at 313, 314, something like that, depending on how far you go obviously, in order to build your landmark. You rally up to 10 on food, and now your scout should be at your opponent's base. 325, 330. I get lucky and see the landmark very early. If you don't see it as early, you might have to readjust the first villager coming out. This one should go onto wood in this build order, and this is where the big change comes in from the fast castle build order, right? We build a lumber camp here, we rally onto wood, and these 3 villagers do not build a house and then go on to gold at 340 at 4 minutes, but instead they just stay on wood here, and then they move to the wood line. You will still need to build a house very soon. I build it with a wood villager coming out, the next one coming out. In this example, I actually think it's probably better to do it with a gold villager, just so that you are not missing out on wood, because you will need wood very quickly. So at 350 roughly, you drop the Jiangyan Tower with 3 villagers from food. This is basically the same, but just in a different order as you would do in the fast castle build order. And so now we're rallying onto wood, building up the Song Dynasty. As you can see, I use this villager now, I believe, to build the house. There we go. I probably should have done it with the gold villager. I would recommend doing it with the gold villager. So your goal is obviously reach a fast Song Dynasty, and then immediately drop a barracks or stables, depending on what kind of a rush you're playing against. Do you play against English with longbows? Do you play against French, or you know, maybe Rus with knights, something like that, Jeanne d'Arc, right? And depending on that, you obviously build your first military production building. I think if I hadn't built the house with the wood villager, I could have built the house a little faster, the military production a little faster. What I do is I build it with these 3 villagers that were on the straggler tree, so that the building goes up quicker. I would also recommend hotkeying this landmark in some way, so that you can rally it anywhere you want once the military is coming out. In this case, I build a barracks as if I were to play against knights, and it's done by 5-6. And then I take a little bit of time, which I shouldn't, and then queue up spearmen, hardened spearmen, or 2 spearmen, and then hardened upgrade, something like that. And obviously you have 1 spearman out already. So if I had done this perfectly, I would have had my 2nd spearman out by 523 or something like that. No, obviously I didn't ready it either, which I will do now. Okay, so that is the most important step, right? You want to defend maybe your wood line, maybe your gold, you know, depending on what you scout. Obviously this scout, if I were actually playing against a French player, for instance, wouldn't do all of this scouting here, but instead scout around the opponent's base, and then track the knight coming in. And then depending on where I see the knight going, I obviously want to protect that space first. So now we are at 11 on wood. Once we have, well, one of them is now building an archery range, so that I can go into Shogunnu, which are the strongest feudal age unit for Chinese and for Jushi's legacy as well. Overall, we want to be 12 on wood, and then we rally onto gold. The reason we rally onto gold is so that we can get all of our upgrades, and also, obviously, Shogunnu cost 20 gold per unit, so you will need a couple of them. Now, I build a village immediately. I've also already built a village with one of the food villagers. You can obviously also choose, after the first village, you can choose to build a tower here, you can choose to build a wall maybe here, stuff like that, depending on the situation. Your next villager out going to gold builds a blacksmith, so that you can start getting your upgrades. This is basically the reason why you want to rally onto gold until you have 6 in gold. It's so that you can get all your upgrades that you need. Now blacksmith, the villager that built the blacksmith now moves and builds a second archery range, a 3rd military production building, and then goes into gold as well. And from here I constantly produce units. I also already got the double borders, and I will soon get wheelbarrow as well. And here I should get, you can choose, you know, depending on what you want, probably Steeled Arrow, and you can get that very soon as well. I choose to prioritize Wheelbarrow here though. Now obviously refreshing the lumber camp, stuff like that. I'm still here very comfortably on sheep, and I'm building up an army that obviously in a real game you would have to micro and defend your base and maybe push out at some point. You can add a fourth production building if you want. You could also now, with all the wood that you are slowly gathering up, you can also, you know, add walls, add a tower somewhere if you want. But after 6 on gold, you just rally onto food again now. And you probably rally onto food until you have like 20 on food. If you want a fourth production building for sure. And you should have enough wood to now build whatever you need. You know, go into a farm transition eventually, stuff like that. So your goal is essentially at 7 minutes to be at 7 on food with an IO and rallying onto food, 12 with an IO on wood, and 6 on gold. And from that point you can obviously transition depending on what you need. If you want to go into a fast farm transition, for instance, or if you want to build walls, if you want to, maybe let's say you play against Delhi and you want to wall up sacred sites or put a tower somewhere or whatever, you might want to rally a little bit more onto wood. But I don't really think you need all that much on wood once you have the upgrade and the IO supervising it. So instead you probably always want to go on food up until probably, like, as I said, like 16 or 20. At 10 minutes 40, something like that, you should start getting your 3rd and 4th Imperial Official, so that you can collect all the gold that is already piling up in your production buildings. But yeah, I would recommend going 16 on food before you build your Imperial Officials. Just so that you can be sure that you have enough food for all your military production. Obviously, if your opponent is falling back and going castle, you know, but even then, having more on gold is a good, having more on food and gold is a good thing. So yeah, this is what I would recommend for this build order. And as you can see, you're already having a sizable army now, and you just continue producing all the time, and you can get upgrades as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any suggestions on how to improve this build order, or any questions about it, please comment below, and I'll try to answer. And yeah, thank you for considering this build order, and that's it. Class dismissed.